Hello, I'm State Senator Toni Boucher of the Connecticut General Assembly Select Committee on Children. Our committee recently held an informational forum to learn more about autism, a neurodevelopmental disorder that affects about 1 in 800 children. In recent years, Connecticut has made great strides in providing services to affected children and adults. But we must increase our knowledge about the various disorders on the autism spectrum as new information becomes available. In this brief video, you'll hear from experts, advocates, and parents. I believe you'll come away better informed about autism and inspired by the dedicated professionals and parents who are determined to ensure that those affected achieve their full potential. Thank you for tuning in.
Autism is a neurodevelopmental disorder. It's characterized by problems in social interaction, or autism, along with communication and a set of odd behaviors. These are behaviors that usually have to do with having trouble with change in the environment. Autism is clearly a brain-based disorder. Children with autism seem to have an increased risk for seizures. There's a very strong genetic component to autism. Autism is really diagnosed based on history and assessment of the child. At the moment, there's no blood test for autism. Increasingly, the age of diagnosis, the first diagnosis, has gone down. We're now seeing children, not uncommonly, under a year. In the past, it's been more like 3 or 4 years of age. The man who first described autism thought people were born with it, and we know that seems to largely be true. A small number of children, maybe 10 to 15%, seem to develop normally and then lose skills in the first year or two of life. One of the real problems in autism, if you lack the kind of social frame, if you lack the social glue that keeps the rest of us kind of going and functioning in the world, very different things capture your attention. This poses major challenges for learning. So just sitting in a very busy classroom, the child with autism has 1,000 things other than the teacher to focus on. That makes for real obstacles in terms of learning not only academic subjects, but learning to negotiate the real world.
Well, I think once you receive the diagnosis of autism, there's a lot of mystery around it. Still, people think of Rain Man, and that's the only association that they have with autism. And autism is so much more complicated than that. So my first suggestion to parents who are being given this diagnosis is to go to the internet, find out everything that you can about autism and what it means and how it affects your child specifically. And even though it is potentially, one of the darkest moments of your life, you really need to be an advocate for your child and be loud and never stop talking.
He went from a smiling, bubbly, happy, responding to his name, looking us in the eyes child at 13, 14 months to at 15, 16 months looking away, no longer responding to his name, becoming more floppy, walking like a drunken sailor. And this was a mystery, and what's amazing is pediatricians are not picking up on this early enough. They only see these kids every several months. We're living with them all the time, and it's amazing the denial mechanisms that parents have, so you can overlook some of the really visible signs of autism. For example, we had an older boy, 1 year older than our son on the spectrum, who was speech delayed. A lot of boys are, and we attributed that to his learning a second language at home, because all our kids are learning Mandarin because we have an adopted daughter from China. We're getting all our kids to speak Chinese, and mom speaks Mandarin. So even the pediatrician wasn't concerned. Then at about 15 months, which is the key babbling milestone for pediatricians to identify speech and language issues, we voiced our concern about his not babbling. And pediatrician agreed, referred us to Birth to 3 for an assessment, so we did our A dose and our M dose, and we came back from Christmas vacation last year to recognize, it kind of hit us full force, just like that we had an autistic son.
To value your child as an individual, that every child is different, and that regardless of where they are on the spectrum, it's just part of who they are. It's not all of who they are.
There's some very good websites for parents in terms of getting information. One of the problems is if you just type autism into Google, you will get 115,000 hits. I have somebody who just did a study. You really would like to go with the quality websites. Autism Speaks has a very good website. At Yale, we have a very good website, I think, and you can go to that with www.autism.fm, like the radio.
Well, I would encourage people to visit autismspeaks.org. First of all, we know that the importance of early intervention is key in supporting children and adults throughout a lifetime of autism. So within the Autism Speaks site, there is something called a video glossary, which actually allows you to see what a typically developing child next to a child developing with autism looks like. So you can very clearly see the signs of autism and determine whether or not or how to get further services for your child.
Now, what is that?
If I can, one last thought, which is these shouldn't be private journeys. It's really important. One of the first things we did was we sent an email out to all of our friends and family and even remote contacts in our email lists, telling Winston's story, telling the story of his diagnosis, and making them understand autism a little better. We knew so little about it when we encountered it, and we wanted our friends and family to understand how our lives might be affected, and it's been great. Our family has reached out to us. They haven't always known what to do or how they could be helpful, but the more open you are and the more willing you are to engage those around you, the more aware society will be about this, and the more we'll focus and align the right resources and attention to this critical issue.
Because it's such a fascinating and mysterious disorder that once we discover our child has it and we start doing the research, it's all consuming and for many of us because it's so interesting. You can learn a lot. There's so much out there now to do research on the internet. The internet's a wonderful resource, and there's plenty of books. I know when my child, he's 15, there was very little out there. Some parents, they have children that are in their 20s and there was nothing when they were originally diagnosed. So I would say also tap into other parents. That would probably be my biggest suggestion, is find a support group or an organization that has parents involved, and they're going to be your greatest resources, honestly.
My son is 9 years old. He has Asperger's syndrome, which is on the high-functioning end of the autism spectrum. He loves Mozart and Beethoven. He's starting to write his own music. He's brilliant. He's funny. He struggles particularly with social skills because, as you might guess, being in third grade, not a lot of people like to talk about Mozart or Beethoven. They're more into Pokemon and things like that. Mm-hmm. So he doesn't have a lot of friends, nor does he have a lot of social opportunities as well. But he's doing well. We've been fortunate to live in a district where the educational supports are fantastic. We managed to get a lot of early intervention that we paid for out of our own pocket because insurance did not cover it. But as a result of that, he's doing, I think, as best as he can be.
The hardest part of having a child on the autism spectrum is thinking about the future. And our jobs as good parents are to stay very, very grounded in the present, but not forget about where Winston's life may lead. And so what are our hopes and dreams for him? First and foremost, it's to have an independent life. And without these early interventions, that's our greatest fear, is that he could lull in his current state and be very reliant upon other people and state resources. We would like him to have a typical life in having love and experience the joys of life and not be encumbered by either neurological or health issues that could get in the way of his enjoying that life. So independence and joy, that's what we ultimately want for our son.